Can you hear us?
Now that we're unmuted, can you hear us?
I was just unmuted. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. No, we were muted too.
All right, so it's 5:30. I hope Thomas will be joining us, but we can get started. So we have a lot to get through. So welcome everyone to tonight's select board meeting. Today is Monday, November 6th. We have Ken Trom, I'm Sabrina Dunlap, and Jeff Donahoe here in the room, and Stephen Whitley online, and hopefully Thomas Lipoma will be joining us as well. So first, I would make a motion to allow Stephen to attend remotely.
I'll second.
And it's a roll call vote. So Ken?
Yes.
I mean, yes.
Yes.
All right. And before we get into administrative, I know Ken and I wanted to say a quick comment about.
Yeah, I just thought, we should recognize Bruce Ellsworth for everything he has done for the town, and also, as I know, for the state in general. So I just ask for a moment of silence.
Yeah, and Bruce passed away, I think, about a week ago, and there was a lovely remembrance of him on Saturday. Some of us were able to go to, and I will always have very fond memories of Bruce and our times doing the elections together. And he was, I think, assistant town moderator when my grandfather was moderator, and he had very funny stories from back in the olden days. And he was just a really wonderful person. So our hearts go out to his family, and yeah, he was a great person, and he will be missed. So hi.
Traffic.
Again.
Okay, so first up under administrative, we have approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda of November 6, 2023.
Second.
All right, it's a roll call vote. Stephen?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Yes, Thomas?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Thank you. Approval of the public meeting minutes from October 23rd, 2023.
So moved.
I'll second. Stephen?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
I mean, yes, Thomas?
Yes.
And Jeff.
Abstain.
We have three non-publics. First is approval of the non-public meeting minutes, October 23rd, 2023, session 1.
I'll move and note they are sealed.
I'll second. Stephen?
Yes.
Yes.
Ken? I mean, yes, and Thomas?
Yes.
Abstain.
All right. Approval of the non-public meeting minutes, October 23rd, 2023, session 2.
I'll move and note they are also sealed.
All right, I'll second. Stephen?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Yes, Thomas?
Yes.
And Jeff.
Abstain.
Okay. Finally, approval of the non-public meeting minutes, October 23rd, 2023, session 3.
Finally, I'll move and again note they're sealed.
I'll second. Stephen?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
I mean, yes, Thomas?
Yes.
Jeff?
Abstain.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna dive into our budget presentations, and first up is planning and zoning with Karen. Come on up.
Back there, in the back row. Do you have a particular format or just go right into it like before?
Yeah, dive right in, and we are on page
23.
And please interrupt me if you have any questions or any questions, please. I'm going to actually go to page 24 and actually only focus on the 2, 4, 6, 7 or 6 line items that have increased. Would you like me to give you the line item name and number, or just the name?
If you could do both, that would be
Okay.
helpful. Thanks.
So it's the 141.91, 341.00, and that's the PB telephone. I've broken it down to the cell phone and to the landline, and it does come out to the $9.56. So it's a $32 increase. The next line item, which is 141.91.345.00, and that's PB Computer Software. These are contracts with an increase that was estimated by the vendors. And it brings it up to an increase of $135. And if I'm going too fast, just holler. 141.91.390.00. This is the professional service line item. This line item, I just want to check one thing. Okay, this line item includes the master plan, conservation, preservation, open space chapter, estimated at $3,700. I met with the Conservation Commission and they were very welcoming and willing to contribute $1,500 towards this cost, as noted on the budget. Or the planning board, I should say, will be setting up a subcommittee, which will include a couple members of the Conservation Commission and others to work on this chapter. Also, the planning consultant services is fees that we always set aside. I finally increased that from, I think, 700 and something to the more realistic per hour fees, which would cover any professional services that the planning board may find they need throughout the year. The last item would be the regulatory audit. And again, feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions. In speaking with Neil, he was pretty confident that there would not be money available for the housing audit, phase 2. So the proposal is to do a regulatory audit of the entire zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, site plan review and driveway regulations, and determine whether or not it conflicts with any of the goals or the vision of the master plan as a whole, not specific to one chapter. The fee, the amount in there was the estimate or the amount that was put in and approved for grant 2, phase 2 of the grant, HOP grant 2. And that was $10,000 plus $3,000 for outreach. $10,000 was supposed to cover the housing chapter. In talking to Plymouth and a couple other communities, which happen to be larger than Hopkinton, that have done a full audit, the number is pretty realistic. And what I think we will do, again, up to the planning board, is if we find that the number does not cover all these documents in relation to the master plan. For example, if there are in the open space section or natural resource sections, there are 10 goals and objectives, we'll reach out to different departments, for example, the Open Space Committee and Conservation Commission, and ask them to narrow it down to maybe 3 that are of most importance to them. And then we will include that in the audit, unless there's money elsewhere. If it's found that HOP Grant 2 does move forward, I would hope that the planning board could tag along with whomever is selected as the professional party to review for housing, and maybe work with them to do the entire regulatory review.
On this account, Karen, I have to ask
I
something.
know, and I may not have the answers.
Sure, it's fair. Going back to the 3,700 for the conserve, preserve, and open space chapter.
Mhm.
You said the Conservation Commission was going to be kicking in 1,500.
Right, and this budget includes 2,200.
And now the regulatory audit, the 15,000, because as I understand it, the planning board is pulling back on the proposed changes that they were talking about.
No, that's a misunderstanding. Oh, you want me to go elaborate on it?
Yeah.
No, and I'm sure Stephen and Anna can correct me, but it's my understanding the Economic Development Committee was the party that withdrew those proposed amendments.
Okay.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, does that mean that we don't have to go forward with the regulatory audit at this point in time?
No, we do not have to at all. There's nothing requiring it to be done. But I guess my thought, Mike Wilkie's thought was, and a couple other planning board members, was that if we could take and somehow recognize what our deficiencies are or what changes need to be done overall in these ordinances to somehow address the vision and goals that have been put forth in the master plan, this would be a great way to do it. And the other committees, such as the Economic Development Committee, would have some sort of document similar to what they are going to do for housing. Or the Open Space Committee would have some sort of document for purchasing lands and meeting their visions and goals that they could rely on that was independent. It was an overall for all chapters of the master plan, not just housing. But again, there's nothing requiring us to go forward.
Okay, thank you.
And Anna, did you agree with that? I mean, that's what we discussed for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, by all
Okay,
means,
so-
I wouldn't have.
I mean, and the thought is that, you know, the last few months have been kind of instructive in, the process around zoning amendments, and the purpose of zoning is to help us achieve our master plan goals. The purpose of the master plan is to inform what zoning looks like. And the last time the code was fully rewritten was 1988. It's been adjusted here and there since then. But it feels like so that we can all kind of be on the same train car moving forward, with zoning amendments, that it would be really helpful to look at the entire body of the ordinance, to make sure that we're all kind of working towards the same vision and goals as laid out in the master plan.
I think too, one of the main goals of this was to make it as objective as possible is by having an entire audit done, so that not just one party could use it, but that Conservation Commission can use it. I mean, they just did a great job with their, if you've had a chance to read over their natural resources inventory that they had done, which, you know, they have objectives in there also, that this would just be another tool that, you know, various parties can use. The ordinance, while it was written in 1988, it has been significantly amended, and there are numerous new chapters in there. But however, having an outside individual review the ordinance to see whether or not a couple things that it is consistent with the New Hampshire laws, that maybe the formatting and the cross-referencing in there is correct, things that we haven't had the time or manpower to do.
I think I was thrown by the word audit. To me, that means something else.
I agree with you totally. Yes, I agree with you.
Thank you.
See what else? Okay, the planning board, so 100-419-1540-00 was the, is the planning conferences and training. It was to cover the law lecture series for 4 participants. This year it was $90 each. There were 3 of us that went. And there are actually 10 and 8, so there would be 18 people. I put in for 4. This year, 2 went out of the 18. Well, we didn't have a full 18. The other increase is 100-419-1550 PB printing. The increase has to do with, as the first line says, public copies of codes updates. They are approximately, this version 2018 codes are around $800 right now. while we can get the electronic version, we do not have a computer, or people do not want to sit at a computer and look at them. The contractors want to look at the books, and they are not available at the library. The fire department does have the electronic and the paper version at their office for the life safety and fire codes. And our codes are built, the IRC, the IBC, which is International Residential and Building Codes, and then it goes on from energy codes to electrical and so on. The item 100-4191-560 dues and subscriptions, that's just highlighted, show that, as it indicates, DRA had a recommended change on accounting, and I guess it's a separate, totally separate, right? Okay. Item now, that is still 7,000 some odd. I don't have the number. It's more than the 7,483, but I haven't got the exact number yet. The last item is the 100-4191-625, and that's PB postage. That's a $500 increase. Other than the fact that postage rates have increased, I have no other explanation. So in the end, you can see that in 2023, it was 157,716. Proposal is 170,164 for a difference of $12,448.
In terms of the fees that we charge applicants, whether it's, with the planning board or building permits, how do those fees compare to our neighboring towns?
The one that I've actually noted in anticipation that I may be asked is actually the solar permitting fees. That's the one I think we should look into. The fee for a building permit is $50. We've had 27 of them this year so far for solar. The electrical fee, believe it or not, is $65. So I would think the building permit would probably cost you more than an electrical fee, but I have not had an opportunity to look and see, but I'd be happy to do that comparison and get back to you.
Okay, if you could do that for, I guess, all of the different fees, if there are
Okay,
other ones you think
okay.
is
I
appropriate.
think they were, was it last year they were updated or 2
21.
years ago? 21.
Yeah, December of 21, they were updated. I'd be happy to go through it and look. Today we did, there's about probably 30 some odd permits that I have not had a chance to enter. There's electrical, plumbing, and mechanical. But today I did the 370th permit, and that was for St. Methodist Gymnasium that they're building.
That'll be a big one.
That was $4,400, the application fee was, but it is included in the revenues that you have here. The building is 3.4 million.
Are you seeing applications or pretty much stable, or are they increasing or decreasing in terms of total numbers?
I think I'm going to say more stable. Also, given the times of the year, it's like with anything during the Christmas holidays and Thanksgiving and everything, things will slow right down to nothing. The first of the year, there'll be nothing. As far as comparison on permits themselves is kind of how I judge it. I think we're about the same, maybe a little under. I did do new homes where we're at, including ADUs and units that we've approved. We're at 23, I think it is, new homes. 5 ADUs, 1 manufactured home. We've done 11, 12, 13, 14 apartments, rental apartments so far. But I think they're basically the same. It's nothing like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's nothing like it was in 2022, where it was substantially more.
So you're expecting more or less the level of activity for 2024 to be comparable to 2023?
I would say so, yes, at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions there? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good evening.
You too. All right, next up, we have town clerk, tax collector / elections with Christine.
Hello.
Hi.
Just go right in.
Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
dig right in. First, I'd like to thank Neil with the timing of Carol's retirement and my taking over. Budgets had already kind of started, and
Mhm.
Neil has been a very big help in helping me get this all together, and with some of my input. I just wanted to thank him for all of his help with this. So to start, I guess I'll just touch base on the things that have changed, because a lot really hasn't changed too much. The first thing is we're not going to do a part-timer at this time. I don't feel that it's warranted. We don't feel that it's warranted. Ideally, we would have enough coming in that we would need to bring that back at some point, but right now there is no need for it at this time. The overtime went up mostly for elections. Going down to the computer contract, that went up for a 3% increase from our software company. Online services should be included in that. And we're hoping to get that up and running for December. Other things, the mortgage searches, you'll see a raise in that. Unfortunately, the company that we had doing our mortgage searches for the last 2 years have not done the searches in time, or they haven't done them at all, so they hadn't charged us for it previously. My hope is to go with a new company, and the new company will even do our certified letters for us, which would be a big help. So that's why there's an increase with mortgage searches. The conference and training. It looks like I'm asking for a significant raise in that, but part of that is as the town clerk tax collector, I would like to become certified as the tax collector, and the total that I came up with was reaching out to the president of the Tax Collector Association and asking them what fees there would be for the year to do training and conferences. And I'd actually like Emily to be able to attend conferences with me so she can have experience with that. The postage contract, you'll see that that went down. That's because we're down to one postage machine in the office rather than having a separate one for the tax collector's office. What
And
else?
actually that one machine, I think Kelly worked really hard, is less than the one.
The one that
one
we
of
took
the
away.
one that we took away, and we took away two, so.
And I think that's all I had that were big on the town clerk tax collector side.
Mhm.
And then elections, you're gonna see that everything went up for that because we have 4 this year. I don't know if you have any specific questions on those, but that's pretty much where the increases.
First, let me thank you for dropping the budget item for part-time position. It's very nice to have department heads say, I don't need something without us pushing. Maybe you could, because you haven't spoken to this board much, what changes are you making to the office other than the physical changes that we've seen?
Well, I think one of the bigger changes that I have noticed makes a difference is trying not to turn people away for things that we might be able to solve with them not having to leave and come back. I think that helps with keeping things running smoothly and not having people have to come back. That makes it seem quieter in here. Some of the other changes, we had just gone on with credit cards over the counter, but now we're going to be going and offering online services for registrations, dog licensing, vital record requests. And that we are in the process of, we just signed paperwork on Friday. And they emailed us to let me know that they were moving forward with implementing it. So the software department just has to do their part, and then we should be live with online services. Ideally, that would
Exciting.
mean,
That's great. We've been
Right.
pushing for that for years. Especially Jeff.
Right. and ideally that would end up decreasing postage because we could have a lot of people that are doing the paperless
Mhm.
shooting emails rather than sending out postcards and letters and all of that stuff. Other than that, Emily started just about a week ago and she's doing fantastic. So I think having a good team in there will make a big difference all around.
And I probably doesn't have anything to do with the the budget per se, but what's the status on potentially getting new counting machines for elections?
So that we are looking into, I believe in the IT budget, we had some money funds that we could use for the e-poll books.
Mhm.
Talking with Sarah, I think we're sort of leaning towards the LHS e-poll books rather than the iPads, but I think we still have a little more investigating to do on what the best route to go with that is. And then the ballot counting machines, we're hoping that will be in the budget, IT budget for next year to be able to get that on board. But those, right now, they've been approved for one portion. They haven't been fully approved yet, so we could potentially get them in to do a trial, and then when they're fully approved, we could be moving forward. I haven't heard if the state's ever gonna decide to give any funds to the towns to be able to help pay for those. But I do know that our current ballot machine, counting machine is, they're not gonna be repairing it much longer. There's only a little bit life left to that, so we do have to think about doing something.
And do you and Sarah think you have enough help for the elections?
I haven't spoken with Sarah specifically, but I do know that we're working on it together. She's actually gonna reach out to ballot clerks that have previously worked the elections, and then she is also gonna reach out to other people who have found or have expressed interest in helping with the election. So bottom line, yes, I think
Okay.
we'll be more than we'll have more than enough help for it.
Great, thank
Yeah.
you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Thank you
I
guys.
appreciate it.
Have a good night.
You too.
I'm
All
gonna
right.
hop off. I'll see you guys in person
All right,
as soon as I can.
sounds good.
Steve.
All right, finance, personnel, insurance and debt. Kelly. Okay. I'm gonna start off on the 4150-345 computer services. That went up slightly. That is our computer software, and that's just an increase they have for this year. 4150-540 for conferences and trainings. That went up due to a change in location. Last year they were able to hold it in Concord, so it was a little cheaper because it was close. Next year they're gonna put it back up north. On 4150-610-02 fixed asset expense, that had a slight increase from Kroll, who is the company that manages that. And then the last big change I had on
The 4150 was 621 for the postage copier, which Christine and Neil just talked about on that. So we took that out of the town clerk tax budget and put it into my line. So it went up there, but down in the other one. Any questions on the 4150s before I
Just what's,
jump to another page?
as I think I ask Neil regularly, what's the status on finding a minute taker for the budget committee?
I don't think we've had any takers.
I'll talk a little more about that when I
Okay.
get to 4130.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna move on to 4155, Personnel Administration. And I think that is on your page 22. And so on 4155 to 10, the health insurance, we had quite a big increase from Health Trust. They had a 19% increase, but our budget actually only went up 8% due to some changes in insurance. And then long-term disability, which is 4155 to 15. That went up slightly too. 4155 to 20. That went down as well as 221 right below it because those were stipend payroll taxes that went into the individual budget lines. Our unemployment insurance, 4155 to 50 went up slightly. Only $59. And then the workers' comp, 4155 to 60. That had a 10% increase. And the last one is 4155 555 for advertising. And that just went up because the costs to run ads have gone up quite a bit. Any questions on that one?
A few questions. I know for
Okay.
the merit wage pool, you've used the 4% that the select board had put in as a placeholder. And that comes out to 122,000. But I was trying to get a handle on what the total figure would be, including the additional fringe.
That includes that.
Oh, okay. All right, great. Thank you. For the health insurance, have you or will you and Neil be looking at if there are any alternatives or options to reduce the costs?
I did have a conversation with Health Trust and we are gonna look into seeing what they could maybe do. Like maybe offering a secondary plan that might be something that employees might be interested in.
Would you have any input back before we have to finalize a budget? No.
I don't believe so, no.
No, and wouldn't know until spring, really.
Mhm.
But employees will be paying the 19% more. The town in general is not paying that full amount because of changes in plans and things, the way more people on stipends, but anyone who's taking insurance will see that full 19% increase from this year to next
And the stipend now?
is $4,000.
And workers' comp, are you looking at any other providers or any ways to reduce that cost?
No, that's done through Primex and like, in general, I think Primex is a good
Mhm.
option and they have all of our property liability workers' comp and unemployment.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so 4196 is next for insurance. That's on your page 29. And that's just our property liability insurance that did go up. About $8,500. Also the next line down, the 4196, 521, also on the year to date. That will have some reclassification there. So we're keeping it at the $2,000 budget. Any questions on insurance?
No.
No.
Mm.
All right, so now we're on to debt services, page 49. I'm gonna start on 4711-98307 for the highway garage, and that is has gone down because the last payment was made this year.
We should have a mortgage burning party.
We burned the bottom one though.
No, maybe not. Maybe no burnings related to this building.
And then if you skip down to the last two lines, that is just the Houston barn bond that we did and the road bond. So those were the two new bonds.
Did 98310 go down because we skipped a payment when we refinanced it, or why is that down by 26,775?
983.10.
Third one from the bottom.
That should be going up 20,000. Just double check that.
Says it's down.
Jeff, you're talking about interest and
Oh,
The interest.
are you on the next page? The 4721.80, 983?
3721, 983.
Oh, okay. So that is the interest, and that's just as the payments are being paid down, the interest has just gone down. The principal actually went up on that. It looks like, I think. 4310. Yeah, so the principal went up. And the interest went down.
I guess just for the benefit of the board, the largest driver of the operating budget expenses are long-term debt principal and interest that on net are increasing 213,000 this year.
Any questions on debt services?
There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. It's already done at this point. So that's it for me then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will note the refinance bond is paid off in 2030, but it actually dropped significantly, I think, in 2 years because it did not extend out any principal as part of the refinance. So it was set up. So when that, I think it was the fires, either the fire station or the road bond would have been paid off, that payment will drop substantially.
All right. Next, is human services.
Evening.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for being here.
Sure, thank you. All right, so I'm proposing a budget for 2024 for the vendors in the amount of $50,000. That's down 10,000 from what was approved for last year. To come to that figure, I looked at a 5-year average for each of the areas that I provide supports for residents who qualify under food, housing, heat, electric, and other. And I went with a 5-year average because we continue to have some of the COVID relief funding for the first quarter of this year. So that possibly
This year,
offset
do you mean?
for 2023, right? So the ERAP money was available. They ended the program at the end of 2022, but it still provided payments for the first quarter of 2023. And so at looking at the 5-year average, because we've had COVID for a few years, which kind of skewed numbers, I came up with, an average for food expenses at $662.20. Housing was $37,768 a year. Heat was $4,674.82. Electric was $2,658.26. And under the category of other, I had the amount of $658.52 on average. So that's how I came up with that. Any questions?
Because I think it would show a trend. How was demand at the food bank? Over the last 5 years?
It stayed pretty consistent, actually, when you look at number of families or households enrolled. There are a number of households who've stayed on over the years, and there are others that kind of come and go. When they have a need, they come on temporarily. And then when they're no longer in need of that assistance, they're no longer on it. And you're referring to the food pantry, correct? So the food pantry is not funded by the town, just to make that clear to anybody who's might be listening in. But obviously within my department, I can qualify and sign people up for the food pantry, which actually helps to, possibly reduce need for accessing or applying for welfare funding. So, yeah.
Thank you.
No other questions? And I think other than that, I just continued, I reduced travel and meals. I've just found that I think I'm not needing to travel between Town Hall and Kentucky so much, right? So most of what I do is in Kentucky, and I happen to have an office there. And then a number of the trainings that I've done are actually on Zoom now. I don't have to travel, go anywhere for trainings as frequently. So it's really reduced the mileage and funds that I need for that. So.
Well, thank you for everything you're doing.
Yeah.
I should say that to all the
To
departments.
everybody. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to note we're well ahead of schedule. Yeah. I mean, next. I know. So we're making it up to you now, Paula. You're 15 minutes ahead of schedule.
I figured I
It's
should
gonna
ask.
take an hour to get us back on schedule.
I know. No, I promise I will. Super.
All right.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Hi. Good. Thanks. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. So, okay. Here we go. Let's talk about lifeguards. This is the first year, and I can't remember how long, that I'm actually saying to you, it was perfect. It was a great year, fully staffed.
Knock
It-
on wood.
I know, knock on wood, but it was, yeah, it was great. So, we had hired a lot of new people this year, which I was not anticipating. So when I put together last year's budget, it was based on, because there's a pay increase for longevity there. I like to, keep increasing pay if they return. It's kind of a prediction there of who will return each year. And that's kind of how I calculate that out. And of course, I'm putting this together
in October, and I never know when staff is coming back until the beginning of the year. So it really, I do my best to try and get a feel for it, but so I did, I think last year, I was thinking more people would return and they did not. So in seeing that we did not use as much of the funding that I requested, and knowing who I'm hoping will return, I'm reducing that this year from what I asked for last year. I did not use as much, so those numbers went down. Let's see. Everything is really kind of holding steady there. I will say ice rink clearing, I did put that out this year. So the person who was clearing the ice for over at Kimball Cabins last year is not going to do it this year for us. He said he's willing to volunteer once in a while, but the Interact group did indicate that they would be willing to volunteer to clear the ice. So I'm going to give that a try and see how it goes. I still have that out there if somebody comes through and is willing to clear, and we can pay them to run the snow blower and really be available. It takes somebody to really be like super available and right on top of snowstorms. And it's like a big ask, really. So I would like to keep that in there in the event somebody does come through, but I am planning on, if they do not, to try and utilize volunteers this year the best we can. Let's see, Medicare, retirement. Okay. Let's see, criminal records check, record checks a little bit lower. That again is kind of a prediction on how many people I think over 18 would be applying for positions. I'm going to hold steady on the porta potties. Travel and meals, which is really just travel. The training that you will see, I went over budget this year. That is the lifeguard training. And because we did have 5 people, new staff, we did reimburse them for their certifications. And we had 2 returning staff that needed to renew. Those certifications are only good for 2 years. So that is where we stand with that. Hopefully, we will not have too many, we won't have to expend too much this year, but you don't know if I lose 4 lifeguards and still, would like to reimburse them.
Paula, and that one account is written 2020 lifeguard training removed due to COVID.
Yeah.
Is that comment just carry over from prior years?
It does, and we can remove that, I suppose. I had that in there to justify the past couple of years, so you know that during COVID, the standards, the lifeguard standards, they actually allowed people who were already licensed to carry over an additional year if they were due to recertify that year because of COVID restrictions, and they couldn't get people into the swimming pools to certify them. So they waived that and so we never had to pay if people were due that year. So it is kind of a reminder that happened in that year. So, but I can remove it, but that's what
Or
that
just
was.
indicate only for 2020?
Lifeguard. So you want the word only listed where? Only 2020?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it
Okay.
quickly and I said, I'm a little bit of confusion there.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can do that. The copier. So that was the big event at the Slusser Center this fall. So, sorry, you guys need some laughter, right? How fun is talking about budgets? So the copier that we had there at the center, which has been there since the center is opened, ran out of ink, and we tried to we tried to reorder. They stopped making ink cartridges for that copier. So it was no copier.
Even a little
or-
well.
I did it a little well. Yeah. It was like a printing press, actually, kind of. So Alicia said we had to get a new copier. So no, so we got a new copier. And that's the cost of the copier. Nothing more to say about that, but it's exciting, actually. So
Was it like a big change coming from the old one?
So yeah, it does, and it scans. So being able to scan documents is super helpful. Instead of taking a picture of a document on a phone and then emailing it to Kelly, I can actually scan a document now and have it look professional instead of wrinkled.
Everybody
and
here is excited.
askew.
about the
I
copy.
know. This is a big deal. So anyway, thank you. The postage, I'm reducing that a little bit. Holding on the dog.
You can scan and email
bags.
now.
Yeah. I can scan now. That's best. And yeah, so that's it. It's pretty easy, simple. Do you have any questions?
I do not. I interrupted you. That was my question.
Oh, okay. Well, that was an easy one.
Anyone have any questions? Steven. All right. Great.
That's it. All right.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Yay.
And you keep rolling on. All right. Have a great night.
Thank you. All right, next up is economic development with
Okay,
Anna.
Kristen Child.
Yeah.
No.
Hi.
You're all doing well.
Mhm. Coming off the high of that copier. news.
No, I don't have anything nearly that
So
exciting.
happy about a copy.
Yeah, Kelly and I were just saying, doesn't take much to keep us happy in this small town. All right, my budget is essentially the same as last year. The only change that we made is zeroing out the line for Chamber of Commerce. There's no longer a Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, and the Kearsarge Area Chamber of Commerce that for the $99 that they were charging, we felt there really wasn't much in
Okay.
return for that. But we did decide to, and Economic Development Committee, not me, decided to add a line for conferences, trainings, and workshops, and move that $350 that was in Chamber of Commerce to that line. And that is the only change for this coming year. We rounded up to $350. You can have the dollar back if you need it, but and I know other folks list their workshops and trainings. We can do that in this budget, but so far I've gone to the Plain New Hampshire Fall Conference, the New Hampshire Fiscal Policy Institute Conference, New Hampshire Housing and Economy Conference, and then the NHMA annual conferences next week. So those are the conferences and trainings that I'll be attending, and then committee members are also have the option to use this funds, but they have not opted to do that this year. So they have attended.
So you may recall that earlier this year, there was quite a discussion about funding last year's concert series, for which the Chamber of Commerce sent us a bill in March for something that happened the previous August.
Mhm.
When did they go out of business?
So they didn't go out of business. They changed, they're now, they've changed to be, they're doing business as their DBA Discover Kentucky. So I don't know exactly when that change happened. I think it was, whenever it was prior to when dues were due. I think it was the beginning of this year. I don't recall. Exactly. But they're no longer a membership organization. I should clarify. They exist. DBA, Discover Kentucky, but they are no longer a membership organization.
I'm just thinking again about the budget committee.
Mhm.
And what I regularly ask you for is, can you give me some information on what benefits, you've provided to the town or expect to provide to the town to defend the position, the department? And not right now, if you could, just put that together and, send it to either me or to Neil, and he can.
Sure, we can work on that as a committee, yeah. And I'm also happy
I'd
to
rather
talk
be
with
fully
you.
armed.
Sure. No, I'm happy to talk with you offline as well. And more than happy to come to budget committee to talk to them as well. So,
Great, thank you.
anything else?
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Anna.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
All right,
Would you like to go now?
perfect timing, 'cause we're ahead of
Can't
schedule.
Believe we're 35 minutes ahead of schedule.
Hi,
Hey, good evening.
welcome. All right. So you've missed everyone who's gone before you, but basically we just have people jump in and flag anything you think is important. So we're on page 46. Okay.
All right, so there are a couple of changes for our computer services. Our Biblionics, which is our catalog, went up $400 from last year. So that's what that changes under computer services. The biggest increase is our electricity budget. We already overspent our electricity budget for this year. So I calculated it off of the average of what we've spent so far. And that's how I ended up with the 2,100, which is a $7,800 increase. Hopefully the rates will go down, but we don't have those new rates yet.
If I could interrupt there, do you get your power through the town's contract?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes, okay. So, and that contract is good through when?
It's either this November or next November, but we lagged behind because we didn't budget any increases this year. So when some of them hit at the end of the year, that's why. So I think all the electricity lines are up.
Okay. I was seeing that. We didn't get to that, but I was anticipating the question. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Our cleaning services are up. Is an increase of $158 from what we were paying at the beginning of this year. So that's why that line is up. Our pest control went up $50. The conferences is up just on $30, looking at what we would like to join for like sub organizations within each organization. I reviewed that with our youth librarian, and there was one thing she would wanted to join that we hadn't been a part of last year. And then our book subscription, we're looking to go up because books haven't been able to go unscathed with the inflation. We were seeing between 3 to 7% inflation just this year, and that's continuing to go up. I'm seeing a trend of publishers floating higher prices for some of their tried and true, the Grisham's and the Pattersons, they're selling their book for $35 instead of 29, which is what we were going for last year. So I expect those to continue to roll through to newer, less tried and true for the big four publishing companies. And the consolidation on the publishing company side isn't going to help any. And those were all the big changes that I had in my budget.
Rose, just in terms of activity at the library, have you seen, or I guess you wouldn't have seen, but do you have records on, the number of people coming into the library, the number of books being borrowed? Is it pretty much level or increasing?
No, everything's increasing. We're seeing an increase in everything from general through the door traffic, computer usage. Our study rooms are so popular that the kids are basically hurrying after school to get there so they can get a study room because it's first come, first serve. We're seeing circulation increase and our reference questions are up. We haven't seen really a dip. There's some seasonal dips, like we finished summer reading, there was a little lull, but as soon as school started again, we went back up, and we've had multiple programs where we've had over 60 people in just the past 2 months.
Okay. Account 455-5411, library heating oil.
Mhm.
Year to date, you're showing for 10 months, $9,800, and yet 19,000 for 2024. Could you explain that one?
Yeah, of course. Our biggest heating months are November and December, and we haven't had any oil deliveries yet. Our last oil delivery was in late June. So I expect when those come in, now that the heat's back on, we'll be running closer to what we've spent. And also it was budgeted at $4, and I think we're at maybe, we're a little under $4 what we're being charged.
So the 9,800 was for just one delivery?
No, 9,800 was for the deliveries in the late winter and early spring.
Because we run on the calendar year.
Yeah.
The first half of winter and then
we
last
haven't
half of
got-
last winter.
July,
and the
Yeah.
from
first
July
half
to
of this
June
year.
or September.
Yeah, the heating season's just started, so we haven't received any bills yet since
And-
I've only received about one, maybe two bills since I've started, so we should be seeing bills come in. I would assume we'll get a first delivery within the next couple of weeks as we go into the heating season again.
And our last year cost ended up being, I think we're locked in at 359 right now through July, less than we had anticipated, but that's only through July. So we budgeted the $4 across the board for number 2 fuel oil.
Do you know if the consumption in 21 and 22 was pretty similar to the 4,750 gallons that you used for this year or for this upcoming year?
We, my predecessor, Donna, she kept really good records.
Yeah.
So I went back and looked at everything we've paid for fuel for the year up until now and what was budgeted for last year and how that was spent. And I'm going off the projections of what we've spent previously.
Okay.
When did you move back into the library? Was 21 were they not there part of the year?
They moved
that is-
into the library in the second half of 2019.
Oh, okay.
And then limited services in 2020 and 2021.
Okay. I'm just asking because the 21 actual and 22 actual are just a good chunk less than the 23 budget and then the 24 request. And I just didn't know if the usage was the same and that was just
I
rate
think certainly
increases.
the price is higher this year.
That's
than-
what, yeah, basically I'm
It's like
asking.
Yeah.
40% higher than it
Yeah.
was a year ago.
Yeah, I'm thinking we're in the twos for a couple of those years. We were
Yeah,
like
and hopefully,
259 versus, so it went up quite a bit. Yeah.
and hopefully the heat won't be kicking on in June like it did,
Yeah.
well, 2 years ago.
And it's not part of your operating budget request, but you are, the library's asking for $35,000 for improving building access.
Yes,
Could you talk about that?
sure. So if you've been to our parking lot, you know that our handicap parking is pretty far from our entrance, and we have some of the more needful, sometimes parking in the circle, but then that blocks the quick access for the book drop. So my predecessor had worked with a company to figure out how they could redo the whole parking lot to make handicap access easier and increase the overall safety of the parking area. So the 35,000 would be for that. And then we're slowly building up to replace our carpeting. So that's what the $500 is for underneath the maintenance line, and then 2,000 for painting, because again, we're just building up. The exterior needs to be painted to preserve the shingles and internal touch-up painting. And then the sprinkler maintenance is just general year after year inspections and dealing with trying to replace parts where there's pinholes from the dry system filling with water when the pumps go down, like when the power goes out, or when like our compressor actually broke when I started, it had been replaced. And then technology, the PCs is just general upkeep. Our computers will age out. We're on a conservative budget to keep them so that we're not replacing them every 3 years, but they do need replacement. And it is my understanding that we replaced a lot of those computers after the fire, so they are aging out. And then we are in need of a new server. Our server's getting old, and we need that for maintaining general files so that the staff can share access.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
No, thank
Great.
you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I made it just in
I
time.
know. Good to be early.
Yeah.
All right. That brings us to executive, IT, assessing, legal, government buildings, community service, patriotic purposes, and general overview with Neil.
That sounds like a lot. I'm tired. So. Executive is on page 15. So, first line that has a big change is I've added in what I've called an executive assistant grants coordinator, which largely is somebody to take on some of the administrative stuff that I do that I don't have to do, so I can actually focus on other things that I probably should be doing. And I've put that in at 24 hours a week at this point. It kind of replaces the 32-hour a week person that was in the clerk's office. I think when we get to the point, if we need someone in the clerk's office, it probably would be a shared person between clerk and finance to provide backup there, to maybe be in the clerk's office 1 day a week, but trained to fill in for vacations. But this person would actually probably pick up the budget committee minutes as well. So it's somebody on staff. We have not had very much luck doing that. And really with the grants we have going, just to make sure somebody's clearly on top of that completely. So I added that into that. Telephone is up. That's just seems to be what we're expending. We talked a little, especially Chief EO and I, about looking at different phone systems because it seems like these are going up. His building, it's high also. And the phone system we has separate lines for everything. So he's paying for a lot of lines in that building. So we will look at that during the year. Conferences and training is up. The last 2 years out of here, we've paid for members of the Waste Reduction Committee to go to the NRA conference. And so that has overextended that budget. So I've budgeted for that, assuming that that will happen again. Advertising is actually down. We're doing less and less. We only advertise when we have to, and that covers public hearings and things like that. Town report printing is actually up slightly. We've been dropping that every year to drop the number. And I have to say the last one went was it last week? The last one went, so I think we're at the right number of town reports now. So we're not going to drop it by 50 or 100, the number we print next year.
The last one from last year.
Yeah, people like to get them, and we had a box or two left. So
8 months later.
So I know maybe people thought it was this year's coming up. So so that has gone up a little just because of the cost, and we're not going to keep dropping the number at this point. Dues and subscriptions are up just because they went up slightly. Town meeting expense also is up based on an increase in paying for the sound system. Postage is down. I think we've kind of had postage all over the place, and I think Kelly has a good handle on that now. And so I think this is a good, accurate number. And then website administration is up just because of an increase there. And that is executive.
Well, Neil knew I was going to ask about the part-time staff position, and he explained it.
Yes, that I wouldn't have skipped over. I thought you might notice. IT is the same as it's been. Since we've had this company, we've kept it at the same level. The previous company we had was at this level and then was going up substantially. And that's when we switched, and we've been able to keep it this. We tried to figure out, it used to be in each department's budget, which was a little confusing because some years it would jump up in a department and down. And this way we can move computers around and replace the mission critical ones more often than the other ones. And we have 3 servers in town that we replace when they're due. The fire department has one, the police department has one, and we have one here. There was a second one that we had for the clerk's office, but we're all on one now. So that's changed. So that has been the same basically for 5+ years. Assessing. Computer services are up. With all the Avatar things, they've told us to budget for a 3% increase. Registry of Deeds, we seem to be using less and less. So that has dropped. And then online assessment cards has dropped. The cost of that seems to have leveled at that 2,900 mark. That will be especially important going into 2024. We actually added this 5 years ago when we did the last reval, so people could see their cards online. And I have to say, we used to have a steady stream of people, real estate agents used to come in to get cards, and now they just do that online. So I think that is more convenient for them and for us. And yeah, so it will be a big assessing year next year. We also have the capital reserve, which has budgeted for the statistical update, and we're probably looking at anywhere, probably a 60% increase in a lot of the values across the board. So just based on what we're seeing for sales.
I think I ask every year about the Sanssouci contract. Do they still have a virtual monopoly in terms of providing the utility assessing service?
Most towns that use them, yes. I would say.
You don't know of anybody else?
I do, and I don't know if now is the appropriate time to suggest it, but there is.
We're happy to have that.
Yeah, I can
discussion.
have that conversation. and
Okay.
See if that's a cost saver for the town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Could do some investigation. And our contract with our current assessor goes through next year, so. All right. Legal is next. That I generally budget 25 and then it gets changed. So I did budget 25. You never know. Looking it through the years, actually, it looks like we've done really well in the last few years. And I'm not aware of anything other than a BTLA case coming up. We don't really have anything pending, although the final PSNH case is coming up, but we're a pretty small part of that. And because it's all the towns together, we're like 1% or something. So it's a pretty small amount. And we try not to use lawyers any more than we should or need to. Government buildings. So through here, you'll see most of the electricity amounts went up based on the cost and based on what we're expending right now. Heating oil, we keep adjusting depending on what we use and what we don't. So a few of those went up, a few went down. Here we actually, it looks like we actually budgeted 350. So maybe the library could drop theirs. Propane is up. Propane at the highway garage it's two things. It's the generator, but it's also the backup Modine heaters that come on when they open the doors. So the problem with that is we don't use a lot, but when they deliver, it's a large bill. Pellets, we dropped based on what we've been using. We dropped the amount of that. The other big change here, cleaning did go up, but the police, Melissa, who works at the police station, is taking over the cleaning there. So we've been able to bring that contract out, and the cleaning is in their operating budget. Building repairs, they dropped, and custodial supplies dropped too. We seem to be using less of those. So overall, government buildings actually dropped by almost $3,700. All right, community services is really our community action program, which we pay. We've been paying $5,900 a year to that for quite a few years. And they requested 6,000, so 6,000 is in there. That's on page 43. And they provide food assistance and heat assistance. It's all the CAP stuff. And Alicia's been really good about sending people there. And I think that's one of the reasons her budget is as low as it is, because of the connections that are made there. So that seems like that's something the town's been doing for many, many years. Patriotic purposes, which is on page 48. This is, this pays for the band for Memorial Day and for the summer concerts, the summer town band concerts. My first year, they had cut this and we're going to get donations, and then they never got donations and we paid for it anyway. So it's been in the budget. It was in the budget and stayed in the budget. Oh, and I guess a general overview this is going to be very, very general. So really the overall budget right now is up just over 7%. The operating budget, I think for the most part, which isn't too bad for the first sort of go around. I think you'll find in most cases, probably all cases, what came in was pretty reasonable, and which doesn't mean it will stay there, but it means it seems like it's a pretty good starting place. The increase that's showing on the tax rate sheet is significant at the moment. Yeah, it actually looks like it's 28%. So that does not include any use of fund balance. The other thing that I included in here, which I know you're going to want to have a lot of discussion on, is talk last year at town meeting was about the roads and not necessarily bonding. So there's actually $400,000 included in here to go into the capital reserve. So and if that moves forward, I would suggest that is a separate warrant article so that discussion can have, because I know last year people said, let's bite the bullet and spend money and do this. And then, so that first year, especially to have that discussion, if that moves forward for people to be able to decide. And the increase in the operating budget is about 660,000. 219 of that is the bonds, the additional bonds. And then you add in the insurance increase and the merit pool, that's probably half of that.
And the other big thing is the ambulance staffing.
Right, which you'll discuss it next time.
week, yeah.
So we're kind of right where we always are right now. I would say. You always hope when you add everything up, it's not going to end up where it always does. So, because it'd be less work then, but. And we're still running ahead.
Let's keep it that way.
Yeah.
You want to dive into anything, Ken, or you?
No, I mean, Neil hit on what are the main cost drivers for the operating budget, you know. I certainly agree, and how much of a fund balance we can use. I had asked Neil offline if he had any feel for what the revenues over budget for 2023 or the expenses under budget, and we don't have any feel for that yet, but you know, I'm hoping that we'll be able to put at least 400,000, say, a fund balance to use to reduce this rate. But the, the 400,000, for roads, yes, I totally agree. If we decide to go forward, it should be a separate warrant article, because I think that's what a 4 to 5% increase in the tax rate by itself.
All right, so next week we have ambulance. PD.
Fire, ambulance, police,
Okay.
and DPW and transfer, and
Transfer station.
actually the other 80% of the budget.
Controversial.
I bet we won't be 45 minutes ahead of schedule.
I know, I don't think so.
Let's enjoy this moment. Okay. All right, well, thank you, everyone, and thank you again to all the department heads and Neil for all your hard work. Put into this process. So that is it for our public meeting. We have 2 non-publics. And after those, we will adjourn and not conduct any other business. So I will move, we go into non-public under RSA 91A32A, personnel, and D for lease of property.
Second,
All right, it's a roll call vote. Stephen,
Yes.
Ken,
yes.
I'm a yes. Thomas?
Yes.
And Jeff?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Just
Thank
out
you,
of
everyone.
curiosity,